In this video, we're going to look at the Chiefs roster and where it currently sits with players potentially coming back from IR very soon, talk a little Chiefs versus Broncos, and look at the continued meltdown of the AFC West as Derek Carr gets benched for the rest of the season. But first, how about those? All right, first things first, we got to talk about the AFC West because there's a lot going on over there at the moment. Let me tell you what. First, the Broncos fired their head coach, Nathaniel Hacket, after he couldn't hack it, losing in embarrassing fashion to Baker Mayfield and the Rams 51-14 and going 4-11 on the season. After that, they then fired special teams coordinator Dwayne Stukes and offensive line coach Butch Barry. From there, the Broncos ownership now has their GM, George Paton, under a microscope on a leash, and he's now, in my opinion at least, in the hot seat with his job on the line. All decisions will now be made through the Broncos ownership group, the great value Walmartonians themselves, and they will run things by George Paton, but are basically now calling the shots. Paton apologized to Broncos fans worldwide and took full responsibility for where the team stands, yet somehow he's still employed and has a job, even though it's all his fault per his own words. So yeah, it's safe to say the Broncos have had quite the embarrassing year, having been drugged through the mud at every turn, made fun of by the nation. Let's ride is now a worldwide phrase used to make fun of someone, and I'm enjoying every freaking second of it. Now, moving on to the next dumpster fire organization in the AFC West, the Chokeland Faders, the Las Vegas Raiders. This week, the Raiders head coach Josh McDaniels has decided to bench quarterback Derek Carr, forcing him to miss his first game since 2017. And in fact, he's going to miss next Sunday against the Chiefs as well. They are benching him for the rest of the season.
We're going to go ahead and start Jarrett the last couple games of the season here. We think it's an opportunity to evaluate a younger player who hasn't had much time to play. Talking to Derek, who was great. You know, he understands the scenario that we're in and very supportive of the two young guys. Those three guys obviously have worked together. You know, he'll do anything he can to help them.
Currently, though, Carr was on pace for 92 consecutive starts, but that's going to end this weekend when Jarrett Stidham, a man who's only thrown 61 passes and has never started in an NFL game, earns his first career start over Derek Carr. Stidham is a former 2019 fourth-round draft pick of the New England Patriots and was traded to Las Vegas this offseason and has officially, like Isaiah Pacheco, taken another grown man's job. And I'm sure some of you, like me, are wondering, why? Why is Derek Carr being benched? What's the point of benching this man with only 2 games left in the season? After all, I know they haven't played well. They're not going to make it to the playoffs. It's been a letdown after the offseason hype, Rich Eisen predicting them to win the West, blah, blah, blah. But why bench him now? Well, he does lead the league in interceptions and threw 3 last Sunday in their 10-13 loss against the Steelers, good God. So yeah, he's not really playing the best, but the biggest reason is because I think the writing may be on the wall for Derek Carr. He is currently signed with the Raiders through the end of the 2025 season, but he has a potential out next season in his contract with only a dead cap hit of $5.6 million. However, if he were to get injured this Sunday or next week when he plays the Chiefs, his full salary of $32.9 million next year and $7.5 million of his 2024 salary would become fully guaranteed. So I think McDaniels is possibly benching Carr to protect himself, talking about McDaniels, and the team's salary cap, and possibly look at other options at quarterback this offseason. And it's funny to me how last year the Raiders went 10-7 on the year in spite of their head coach John Gruden resigning week 5, and they ended up making it to the playoffs, albeit losing in the wild card round to the Bengals and therefore keeping Derek Carr's postseason wins to 0, which I do like a whole lot. But this year they do even worse with more weapons at the disposal than last year and the same head coach all year long, i.e. consistency, yet Derek Carr is going to take full blame for Josh McDaniels' inability to be a successful head coach in this league. Don't get me wrong, I don't care what happens to Derek Carr, he's not a good QB, but McDaniels is even worse of a head coach than Carr is at QB, and it's not even close. And if all that wasn't crazy enough, get a listen to this scenario. If the Raiders wanted to reset or rebuild next season, they could move on from or cut Derek Carr to save $29 million, which we've been talking about. But then they could also trade wide receiver Davante Adams to get draft picks out of the 30-year-old receiver for a dead cap hit of only $31 million. But again, if they get rid of Carr, they save $29 million, and therefore that $31 million dead cap of Davante Adams will only really be around $2 million when you factor the $29 million they save on Carr. So very interesting to see the moves of both the Raiders and the Broncos this offseason, as both organizations appear to be completely on fire after absolutely sucking this year. Regardless of who the blame falls on, it's been horrible for both organizations. Us in Chiefs Kingdom, we've enjoyed it. It's been a lot of fun. But editor Cole here, and I found out some very interesting news since recording this video. And before I hit export, I wanted to fill you guys in on something. Jeff Howe, he's the NFL National Insider for The Athletic, over 142,000 followers on Twitter. I think he's a real deal, so we can maybe take this report pretty seriously. But he says this: after being informed of his benching, Raiders quarterback Derek Carr has left the team with their permission to avoid being a distraction over the final 2 weeks of the season, according to a source. Well, according to Josh McDaniels in his presser, he said Derek Carr was in support of the new guys, and I knew when he said that he was lying, that dirty, lying, filthy little man. But here we are. It looks like we will not have any chance of seeing Derek Carr play the Chiefs on the last week of this season. So something to keep your eyes on and look out for, certainly. For the last team outside of the Chiefs in the West that are not completely on fire, that's the Chargers, the LA Chargers. Despite battling tons of injuries once again, they have actually officially locked themselves into the postseason for the first time in Herbert's career. And honestly, I'm happy for Herbert. I think he's a great QB, one of the best in the AFC, and wish them, nothing but the best, except for when/if they have to play the Chiefs in the postseason. And sadly, because of that news of them making the playoffs, there's not much I can make fun of about these guys other than the fact that their head coach does pelvic thrusts as part of his pregame workout, and Keenan Allen predicted them to win the division and for the Chiefs to finish dead last. How'd that work out for you, bud? All right, well, enough of those silly little teams, but hopefully you enjoyed that segment and it made you feel much better about the situation here in KC, because the future continues to be very bright here as the Chiefs have won the West for the 7th consecutive season and are once again preparing for another deep postseason run. All right, let's talk injuries real quick, starting with the Broncos. Even though I said we're going to talk about the Chiefs, but the Chiefs play the Broncos this Sunday. So let's talk Broncos, then Chiefs injuries. As far as the Broncos are concerned, Parker Gabriel of the Denver Post reported that Randy Gregory, Barron Browning, running back Latavius Murray, and tight end Greg Dulcich did not practice today. Why? I don't know. But if the injury report drops before I post this video, I'll throw it up and you can see why. Meanwhile, wide receiver Kendall Hinton, who has missed the last couple of weeks with the hamstring issue, I believe, is practicing today. And then he reported some interesting news that happened during practice today with a very noticeable wide receiver. He said this, quote, "Wide receiver Jerry Jeudy just walked off the practice field with the trainer. Jeudy grabbed toward his ankle before he was eventually walked off the field. He hurt his ankle week 10 versus Tennessee, missed the next 2 weeks, and left Sunday's game briefly after appearing to hurt it. So we're going to have to keep our eyes on Jerry Jeudy because if you remember, I still have PTSD from it. He scored 1, 2, 3 touchdowns against the Chiefs the last time they played. Now, a glance at the Chiefs injury report, it shows that everybody fully participated, but here's who was on there as full participants: fullback Michael Burton, groin; tight end Noah Gray, shoulder and knee. The knee is new. The shoulder was on there last week, but another body part added for Gray. Then Derek Nottie, Achilles. He was on there last week for the same reason. Right tackle Andrew Wiley, hip, and defensive tackle Colin Saunders, who appears to be on the tail end of that sickness. They all fully participated and we're good to go so far at practice. So we'll keep an eye on them and see how these guys do throughout the remainder of the week. Sometimes it's also good to see who came off the injury report from the week prior. And there were some notable names on there that are no longer listed, which means hopefully these injuries are healed up and all good to go. And those players that are no longer on the injury report are running backs Isaiah Pacheco and Jerick McKinnon, wide receiver Kadarius Toney, ding, 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 hamstring, and then cornerback L'Jarius Sneed, calf. So those are some notables. And then I believe linebacker Nick Bolton, he got off the injury report 2 weeks ago. So the team is getting healthy for the postseason, and you got to love it. So all we can do on these last 2 weeks, just hope that no serious injuries happen and everybody stays remotely healthy on the way to the postseason. And also to note, until Mecole Hardman returns from IR, he will not be listed on the injury report, so we'll have to almost guess on how he's doing from the words of coaches during their pressers or from the reports of beat reporters during their brief media looks during practice. And speaking of the media, Coach Reid, Mahomes, and others spoke with the media today, and here's some of the main takeaways and newsworthy snippets. Coach Reid announced that barring any major setback, wide receiver Mecole Hardman will most likely return from IR to face the Broncos this week, or at the latest will be back before his 21-day window to return from IR closes. As a reminder, his window opened up exactly 2 weeks ago, and he currently has a week left to return or go on IR for the remainder of the season, and I hope that doesn't happen. Well, he was looking to return, talking about Mecole, for the Texans game. However, Coach Reid said this.
As the week went on, he got a bit tired and sore, and I think that was good. He worked his way through what he needed to get through, and now it's a matter of getting him in a game. And I presume, unless there's a setback, I presume he'll be there, but that's where we're at right now.
Therefore, Mecole should be back this Sunday for the Broncos game, but worst case should return by next Wednesday as his 21-day window comes to a close and will ultimately start preparing for the postseason run. And then, regarding CEH and his high ankle sprain, Coach Reid was not as optimistic about his return, saying he's working on it, but that a high ankle sprain is difficult for a running back to return quickly from. He also did not seem positive about Jody Fortson returning from IR before the postseason run, as well as CEH, to be honest. So we may be done seeing CEH for the year, as well as tight end Jody Fortson. I'll be curious to see how things look for both of them this offseason as far as their future is concerned. I believe Jody was on a 1-year deal. He could return on another cheaper 1-year deal. CEH has 1 year left, I believe, on his rookie deal. The Chiefs could 2 years from now pick up his 5th-year option, but it'll just be interesting to see the future of Jody Fortson and CEH. And speaking of the future, one of the wide receivers that coaches are hoping pan out for the future is second-round draft pick rookie wide receiver Skyy Moore. He was in discussion during yesterday's video about the confusion of him not being used as much as fans would like, despite wide receiver Justin Watson getting hella snaps and very little production. And while I think it's taking time for Skyy to get comfortable in the offense and earn Mahomes' trust due to some issues not related to punts, just running the wrong routes, and because of that, Mahomes has thrown a couple INTs. Andy Reid seemed to indicate things are moving in the right direction for him.
Yeah, I really like what I've seen here the last few weeks. He's gotten better every week, better understanding of the offense. We've seen some zone teams and kind of how to fit in the different holes as an inside receiver. He's getting better at that, and I like that. And then he's had a few of the jet sweep things, and he was stretching them out, where it would have been good in Canada, but not here, So now he's hitting that son of a gun up in there, so that's a good thing.
So yeah, I'm not sure we will see a ton of Skyy this year, especially with the return of Mecole Hardman and the increase of production in Kadarius Toney as he is off the injury report and healthy again. But the future is still something to look forward to with Skyy Moore here in KC. And if you want more details on that, look at my video from yesterday. I touched on the receiving production of the wide receiver room over the last month in great detail. Definitely worth the watch. All right, back to the pressers. Coach Reid was also asked about Eric Bieniemy and his thoughts on trying to secure a head coaching position this offseason, with positions already starting to open up. And Coach Reid said he's pulling for him like always, but
I hope he gets an opportunity. Rather not have it at Denver, but I hope he gets an opportunity.
Well, don't worry, Coach Reid. I doubt EB gets a head coaching job for the Broncos despite his ties to Colorado, because the last 3 head coaches that the Broncos have hired have been first-time head coaches, and I would bet a lot of money, like more money than Chiefsaholic would bet on games, that the Broncos opt for a veteran coach.
Go, baby. You already know what it is.
Or at least you would really think so. Anyway, on the subject of the Broncos, last game, Patrick Mahomes threw 3 interceptions against them, and he said a bit of a reason for that was because he was trying to force plays instead of taking what was given, so this go-around, that's going to be his focus.
Yeah, I mean, they did a good job of following my eyes, making some good plays on some balls that I was trying to throw in some tight windows, and so I've had to make sure to just take what's there and not try to force it. They got great players. Like I said, they got great players that make a lot of great plays, and so for me and for this team, we got to go out there and play our best ball, and we know we have to play our best ball if we want to win.
And that's all we can really really hope or ask for. The Broncos are reeling after 3 of their coaches were fired. They're dealing with injuries, frustration after frustration piling up, and a QB who has greatly underperformed this year. Russell Let's Ride Wilson, Mr. Limited, who cannot cook. And with that being said, I'd expect the Broncos to come in here to Arrowhead, is what I'm talking about, and play hungry for a dub and for individual players to prove their worth and value before the offseason hits. And it's also worth noting that they know that the Chiefs have to win out and the Bills have to lose 1 game for the Chiefs to secure the first seed, so they might be motivated to get a dub just to knock the Chiefs out of that first round bye in the postseason. However, if the Chiefs play a clean game and don't turn the ball over, they win by at least 14 points, in my opinion. What do you guys think about this upcoming game? What are your score predictions as of right now? And then you got to let me know about the dumpster fire in the AFC West. All the coaches getting fired, Derek Carr getting benched. Are you enjoying it as much as I am? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And until next time, let's go. Let's freaking go. How about those?